Okay, so I'll make sure and go through all of my real world production setup. I tend to kind of gravitate towards certain brands, and so you will find yourself doing that too whenever you're getting your equipment. But for me, I've just kind of gravitated towards Sony. I've tried a lot of different brands. I've tried Canon, Blackmagic. I've tried a number of different brands, and then of course I landed on Sony. Why did I land on Sony? I like the color science. I like that they have such a varied lineup. You're able to get in at various different price points, and I like that. I have graduated myself all the way from a Sony ZV-E10, literally a $600 camera, up to a $10,000 camera with the Sony FX9, and I have no regrets. It's a great camera. But I'm not just going to talk about cameras in this live. I'm going to also talk about my lenses. I've tried several different lenses. My Tamron is my favorite for my all-around lenses. And then for specialized situations, for portraits, I like to use the Sony f1.4 85 millimeter lens, of which I'm actually filming this on the 85 millimeter 1.4 right now. But a lot of the filming you see, if you watch a lot of my videos, they are done with the Tamron lenses. I'm also going to talk about audio. I've got 4 different types of wireless mic setups. They're made by Hollyland. Of course, there are other really good brands too. This is just the brand that I landed on. I'm also going to talk about just a little bit about my shotgun mic as well. And I'm also going to talk about my Crane S gimbal. So we'll talk about gimbals as well. I may even show you how to balance one while we're at this. So we're going to be talking about all this stuff here. Those who are watching live, I'm going to be looking out for questions. So if you have questions, feel free and pipe in with any questions that you have. Let's start off with the Sony FX9. Now, this camera, you may ask, okay, I'm going to be doing content. Should I get a professional camera like a Sony FX9? I get asked that question a lot. My answer is, the first thing I will ask you to do is think about, are you going to be in front of the camera or behind the camera more? Because that's going to be a key consideration. I want to double check, make sure my sound is working. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, so if you're going to be behind the camera and you're filming other people and you're doing professional work, then I would say definitely consider the cinema line, consider a professional camera versus maybe just only having a hybrid camera or a camera that you would normally just take photos with, but it can also take videos, okay? What I'm recording this on right now is a hybrid camera, and I love it. It's a Sony A7R V. I absolutely love that camera. However, if I'm doing video work, and it's straight video work, I'm going to take this camera and use this more for several different reasons. I'm going to go through all those reasons, or many of those reasons, right now. Now, when you're trying to decide whether you're going to get a professional camera or a hybrid camera or any type of camera, think about first who's going to be doing the filming. Are you going to be filming someone else, or are you looking for something to film yourself? If you're looking for just to film yourself, then I would say you could probably get away with a camera that's as low as $600, right? The Sony ZV-E10, that's a really good camera to start off with. It can do 4K. You still got to buy a lens, but it's a very good camera. So even after you buy a lens, you're still probably right at $1,000. So I think that's, if you're filming yourself, that's a pretty good camera to start off with. And it has a little flip out on it, so you can actually see yourself when you're recording. So I think it's got some good benefits to it. If you want the camera to move with you, you can buy a gimbal that has some type of AI setup where when you're using the gimbal, it moves with you. That's another thing you can use if you're going to be filming yourself a lot. If you're going to be filming others and you're doing professional work, then you should get a professional camera as soon as you can afford it, right? You got to start where you are. But as soon as you can afford it, you want to go ahead and get your professional camera. Let me just kind of go over some of the things about this particular camera that I like. I'm going to look back at my notes, things that I want you to think about when you're looking at this particular camera. So one of the differences between this and some of the other cameras you see, like let's say the Sony ZV-E10 or many other cameras, they typically will shoot 4K, but that's the extent of what the lens will do. And so it's nice if you have a little bit of extra wiggle room, because whenever you do some stabilization work or if you need to make any extra editing, sometimes it's good to be able to have a sensor that can capture more than just 4K. This particular camera can capture 6K. It's a 6K sensor, but it outputs in 4K. So it gives you that much clearer and nicer of a picture because it has capability for even more resolution. But it also helps when it comes to things like stabilization, because when it crops some of the edges, you're still going to have a high quality picture that's 4K. So it's downsampled to 4K. Another big thing on this camera, it has the dual base ISO. So with this camera, if your lighting conditions are very challenging, you can set the native ISO to a higher setting. If it's very bright, you can set it to a lower setting. That's a really key feature when you're doing video work, to have that kind of flexibility with lighting. Another thing I like about this camera, it has the fast hybrid autofocus. Now, this camera came out several years ago. It's pretty common for the newer cameras to have that. But when this camera was made, you just didn't find that in cameras. So this has that fast hybrid autofocus. It can focus on the eye. It can focus more on people than on things. So you can tell it that I want you to prioritize people and faces, or I want you to just prioritize just having an overall clear picture. You can tell it what to do and it will follow your instructions on that. So it can do face and both eye tracking, which is very important. Another thing it has I really love is the 10-bit 422 internal recording. So I don't need to have a Ninja extra recorder. I can record straight out of the camera in 10-bit 422, which gives you millions of colors. It gives just a beautiful image. It's recording at a depth that takes in a lot of information, and you end up being able to transfer the information to your recording. So that's great. And that's all done internally. So that's what I love about this. Another thing I love about this camera is that because it is lower down the line from, let's say, the Venice. The Sony Venice camera, the Venice line, is used on a lot of big blockbuster movies. And so you're able to get what's called the Cinetone, which was based out of that high-end cinema camera. You can get that same color science down in the Sony FX9. They call it the S Cinetone. So this has that color science in this camera. So it gives you a beautiful picture in the end. So I love that about this camera as well. Another thing that I can't emphasize how important this is. And I don't know of any hybrid cameras that have this. By the way, when I say a hybrid camera, I mean those cameras that they have, they don't look like this. They have the lens, of course, in the front, but they're smaller cameras, and they're basically made for photos, but they can also do videos. So we call those hybrid cameras. Most hybrid cameras, all the ones that I know of, do not have internal ND filters. This does. What does that mean to you? Well, what that means is when you're in a very challenging, changing light situation, if you're going from outside to inside, inside to outside, light to dark, this automatically changes to the environment that you're in. You don't have to do anything. You just put the auto setting on and it will have the automatic sensor right here. It's the ND filter. And so it's a variable ND filter that's electronic. You don't have to do a thing. Whereas on a hybrid camera, you're probably gonna have to buy a matte box. I have a matte box actually for this camera. I don't have it on it right now, but you can get a matte box on it, you put it on there and you slip your ND filters in there. You can slip your variable lenses in there. So you can do that, and it's kind of a workaround, but it's still not electronic. You still have to physically put the matte box on. You have to drop in whatever filter you're gonna use. If it's a variable filter, you're still gonna have to turn it and adjust it to the situation. This is automatic, so that's a big plus. Another thing I like about this camera, it does record in the high quality XAVC-I and the long range XAVC-L. So if you're recording at 4K and you really want to make your footage, your media last longer, you can choose the L. It doesn't capture quite as much information as the I, but it still captures a lot, has a great picture. My clients never can tell the difference between the two. So it's great. The other thing I do like about this camera is that it does wonderfully in low light. So as I mentioned earlier, you've got the variable ND filters. Whenever it gets to a point where you do have a very challenging low light situation, because it has a dual base ISO, you can turn that gain up and really get a nice picture, even if it's very dark and you have challenging lighting conditions. Now, one thing it's not my favorite about this camera is that it uses specialized cards. Basically, you can only use XQD cards in this camera. Now, if you had the FX6, I believe you can use the Type B, the compact flash Type B, which those are pretty economical, and you can get up to like a 500 or even a terabyte. I think you even get 2 terabytes. You can get a lot of information on those Type Bs. You can't do that with this. The most that I've been able to find so far in this particular medium, which is the XQD, is 256 gigabytes. So now the good news is it does have 2 slots. So this does have a place to put 2 XQD cards in here. So that's a plus that you can do that. But still, that's only 512 gigabytes max. So it depends on what you're recording, but if you're recording XAVC in the eye, it's not going to last a whole lot of time. So you just got to make sure you have to have plenty of XQD cards. And those cards aren't cheap. So to buy a 256 gigabyte XQD card, you're probably looking at depending on where you buy it, if you're buying it used, if you're buying it new, I'd say on the low side, you're probably going to pay about $150. On the high side, you may pay $200 or maybe even $300 for 256 gigabytes. Sony doesn't make a 256, they make a 240, they make a 128, they make a 64 and a 32. But if you go to other manufacturers, if you're searching on Amazon or eBay, you'll find other manufacturers may make a little bit larger one. Like the one I bought is a 256 gigabyte, and I don't remember the name of the company. I'm gonna see if I can find it and put that in the description. But just know you're not gonna be able to buy the huge capacity XQD cards. And because there's not that many cameras that have XQD cards, you're not seeing new manufacturers entering in the market. You're not seeing manufacturers building higher capacity cards because there's not enough cameras to support that particular media. That is the only thing I think that I don't like about the camera. I can't say I'm dissatisfied with how the media performs though. The media performs very well. I'm not sure where my camera, let's see, right here, looks like I'm paused online. Let me know if you can see me online, guys. Let me check. For some reason, I'm frozen. I'm frozen on my end. Okay, there we go. Now I'm back. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. Hopefully I wasn't frozen for you guys online. Let me know in the comments if I was frozen. Let me see if I can look at where the chat is here. Okay, I'm looking to see if we have any chat going on here. No, I didn't mean to do a green screen. I was trying to find a way I could see your messages. Okay. Yeah, if you have any questions at all, feel free and nope, I don't want to do that. Okay. So yeah, if you have any questions while I'm doing this, feel free and pipe in. Okay. So even though it does have a slot that fits a CF Express Type B, I can just tell you, I've tried at least 4 or 5 manufacturers of Type Bs, and they do not work in this camera. Do not waste your time. They don't fit. You just need to buy the XQDs. Now, if for some reason you do find one, you test it and it works in the FX9, please put it in the chat. Let me know, because I would like to know what that manufacturer is, and I would love to use that. But they do not have any documentation on the Sony website to support anything outside the XQD on the Sony FX9. The dynamic range is superb on this camera. The color, the image is great. So I love this camera. I know it's eventually going to get replaced, but I love it. Let me go over some of the things with you too that I like about the way this is set up. So as you can tell, with most hybrid cameras, there's a lot of menus you have to go through. But as you can tell on this one, there's a lot of tactile buttons, like you can feel things. Like I could literally have this on my shoulder and there's certain things I can feel and adjust on this camera. And you just can't do that on those hybrid cameras. So that's one big advantage. So I can go through the menu system here. I can down, up, select. I can also go through the menu system here. But then if I have this connected, which I really love, now I can choose start, stop, and record. I can choose things on the menu. I use the menu one here. Let's see, let me show it to you. There it is here. This I use a lot for the menus. So you're able to kind of move around the menu just with your thumb. Oh, I love that feature. So that's great. So I use that a lot. And of course, there's several other functionality on this particular thing. So let me hook it up for you so you can see what it looks like when I hook it up. Another thing too I like is you can adjust it to the way you want to hold it. I also use it behind the camera too, which I'll show you that. Okay. And then this right here fits in the side. Like that, and I snap that in, okay? So now I can put this on over my shoulder, like this. Now, I also have a viewfinder that goes here, and I use that, but sometimes I don't. It just depends. If I'm in a challenging light situation where it's kind of really bright, I really need to have that viewfinder. But if the conditions are okay, I might just use it just straight like this. I also will generally kind of push it out a little bit, like that. Tilt this down. And I also will bring this down too. And I also will extend this, because this extends like this. Okay. So now this is much more comfortable. You see that? So I'm able to adjust this to my hands. I'm able to, if I have the power zoom, I can even control the zoom here. But generally what I'm using it for is to start and stop recording. And I'm thumbing through the menu system. I could turn on the menu system here, just with my button without even looking. I just do this. And then I start messing around with the menus with this hand and this thumb. Very powerful. Another thing I use too, I have it customized, but you can't even hardly see it unless you really look at it. There's a button right here. And when I press that button, what that does, it allows me to take it on and off of face priority. There are times when I don't want it to follow the face. I want to maybe show a product or some type of piece of furniture or whatever the case is. It's not a person. I can turn it on and off with this button here. So these are customizable buttons. I customized it to that. There's several customizable buttons just on this hand portion here. So keep that in mind. I love that feature. There's lots of other things you'll find on this. In fact, let me show you one other thing. There's another, when I'm behind the camera and I'm not having it over the shoulder, I also like to turn it back this way. And then I just adjust this. And so I can actually use this behind the camera. So this could be on a tripod and I'm using it behind the camera. I love it. So I've got the camera this way and I'm turning on the tripod and I'm controlling everything this way. That's another way I love to use this camera. Going through some of the buttons that you can control, besides the ND filter, I love menu controls here. You can also control the white balance right there on the camera. You can control the shutter speed. You can control if you want to go to slow and quick. You can control the iris. And for those of you who maybe you're new to this, I can show you what some of these things mean. So for instance, if you're in a very challenging light situation, you may want to change the ISO or the gain. That's going to give you a little bit more flexibility to brighten up the image if it's too dark. However, you want to be careful because you don't want to bring in too much gain. If you do, then you're going to bring in noise into the image. It's going to get noisy. It's going to have a little pixelation. It's just not going to look clean and good. So just be careful with not going too high on this. Now, part of how you can fix that is just by having a faster lens. So if your lens is faster, in other words, it has a low f-stop rating, like a 1.8 or 1.4, 2.0, 2.8, then you're able to get more light coming into the lens. You don't need to work as hard on the ISO side. The white balance, you do have that here. I also like to use the white balance, auto white balance here. If I press this button right here, what that does is it automatically adjusts the white balance to the room. So now I have a situation where if it does change a lot on me, I can change the white balance. If you're not familiar with that, what does the white balance do? That helps to adjust your color. So you don't have people looking too yellow or things looking too blue. You just adjust it to the room and it'll do great. It's an excellent feature. Okay, another thing you can do on this camera, you can control the sound, which I love. So you can bring up certain things like there's several inputs which I'm going to show you from an audio standpoint where you can have sound coming in and you can make all those adjustments here. You of course have the section here in the back which will let the the media items come in. So the XQD media cards, the SD card goes in here. You have 2 XQD slots and 1 SD slot. So you have plenty of room for storage. I usually don't run into a problem as long as I have at least 256 gigabyte or 240 gigabyte cards in here. That I can pretty much run most of the day on my corporate shoots. There are a number of other things I won't go into every single thing in here, but those are some of the ones I use the most. I also use the thumbnail feature. The thumbnail feature will allow you to see what you've recorded already, what's already on the card. You can play that back and listen to it in full good sound and everything. Power, of course, is at the bottom. Headphones go right here. Use the headphones all the time. Great feature. Now, let's talk about the sound inputs because I'm going to show you that on the other side. So you have spots for XLR. XLR is the one that has a little 3 prongs, and you can stick it in either one of these 2 slots. I keep one right in here, and this is what I connect my wireless microphones to, which I'm going to go into my wireless microphones here in just a bit. So you have space for that. You also have, not only do you have 2 XLRs here, you also have the ability to run a microphone into this shoe right here at the top. This is a hot shoe. It's only specific models that will work on the FX9 in this particular slot. I think it's the UWP 21 and 27, if I'm not mistaken. Those are wireless microphones. That's the only ones that'll fit in here. You can't really buy other brands. It's not going to work properly in here. Now, if you have the FX6 or the FX3, there is some more compatibility with some other newer wireless microphones, but not the FX9. So don't get caught up in that. I got caught up in that. Like for instance, right now, I'm using a hot shoe wireless connection on the Sony A7R V that I'm using right at this moment. But that same hot shoe will not configure correctly in the FX9. It will not recognize it. So just a word to the wise there. So that's where your audio is. So you have the audio here, you have audio here, and audio here. You have a total of 4 channels. And you might ask, what's the 4th channel? The 4th channel is just the internal microphone. So you have the internal microphone, you got the hot shoe microphone, and then you have XLR1 and XLR2. So you have 4 sources of sound you can run through this camera, which gives you lots of flexibility when you're online. It's actually saved me in some cases. There have been some cases where I had the shotgun microphone, like this one here. I have it connected on there. Plus I have the wireless microphone, and the wireless microphone was not configured properly, and we didn't have the headphones on, only to find out later all I have is a shotgun to work off of. But good news, the shotgun does pretty decent job. So it's decent sound, not as good as if I would have had a wireless on there. As far as the batteries are concerned in the back, you do have a few different choices for the batteries. The batteries last a whole lot longer than they do on hybrid cameras. I can just tell you that. This particular camera here, I have in here the equivalent of a BPU 60. So it's pretty good size. This will probably last probably 2 or 3 hours, something like that. Then I have another one, maybe longer. Just depends on how long you have it recording, how challenging the filming situation is. It may last half a day. I have another one that's equivalent to a BPU 90. It's a longer battery, and it will last most of the day. It does a really good job. It's excellent. So that is another option for you if you have the funds to get the bigger batteries. There's lots more other things I could talk about with this particular camera. If you have any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat. I'd be happy to answer it. One of the biggest learning curves I've found with this particular camera was how to put the lenses on and off. If you have a Sony camera and you have an E-mount lens, you know how easy it is to get a lens on and off of an E-mount hybrid camera. It's very easy. It's literally you just press a button and you can just pull it off or put it on with one hand. I do not ever advise you to try and put a lens on or take a lens off with one hand with this camera. You might find yourself dropping a lens. And in fact, it actually happened to me not too long ago. One of my crew who wasn't as used to this camera, which I totally understand, that lens ended up finding itself on the ground. And this is one thing you and I don't want to happen. You don't want to have a lens drop on the ground. I've actually dropped a lens on the ground before. It wasn't on this camera, but I've dropped the lens, and it's not fun because you end up, it's very costly to fix a lens. Okay. So here's how I'm going to show you how to do it. So on this particular camera, let me move this viewfinder out of the way to make it that much easier for you to see. Okay, I'm going to set that down like that. All right, so I'm going to show you how to take this lens on and off. Again, make sure you have two hands on this lens. You do not ever want to get in a situation where you have one hand because the lens will drop. Okay, so let's see if I can do it. I've never done it from behind before. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, here we go. All right, there's a release button here you want to press. So you press the release button. Once you press the release button, you have these two notches here that you can use with your hands. You see that? These two notches right here. This is what you're going to be turning. But you want to make sure you have at least one hand on the lens so it doesn't fall out while you're turning it, okay? So I'm going to start, so I got the release on here, okay? I'm going to start turning it. I got my hand on the lens, I'm turning it. Oh, there we go. Wait. It's off, okay? So the lens is off. So these are the two I'm talking about right here. You're going to be turning these when you're taking a lens and pulling it in and taking it out. This is what you're going to be turning. But you saw I got stuck with it. The reason why I got stuck with it is this button here, I had to release it again. So this is how you release the button to put a lens on or off. So let me put the same lens back on. Again, you want to make sure you always have two hands with one hand on the lens. So here I'm going to line up this lens. I'm going to line it up with these. These two right here, there's two white notches here. Those have to be lined up. Here's my white notch here. So as you can see, I have them lined up. If I let go, the lens falls, okay? So I have this here. I'm holding it with one hand. Then I'm taking the other hand and I'm turning this part, which is this other notch I showed you. You heard it click? It clicked. Then I press it some more and tighten it really good like that. I still got my hand on this one. I'm tightening it and it feels good. Now it's secure. So even though it's a little harder to take the lens off or put it on, it does secure the lens much better than the regular Sony E-mount cameras. Now, the reason why you may say, well, I don't really need that, I get that. With most lenses, you don't need to have that tight of a grip there. But some of the bigger cinema lenses, this is designed to take on those bigger cinema lenses. So you may have a lens that may be like this size, and you want to make sure that this is able to hold it and it doesn't overstress the mount. This right here will do that for you. So although it is a little bit of a nuisance, it's not my favorite thing about the camera, but it does help a lot. Obviously, I wouldn't need it for this lens because it's so small. This is a 20mm f2.8 Tamron lens. And while we're on the subject of lenses, let's get into lenses, okay? So maybe you're looking for a lens for your Sony camera. If you have, it doesn't matter if you have a Sony ZV-E10, it's a $600 camera, or if you have this lens, this camera, it's a Sony FX9, it's a $10,000, $11,000 camera. This lens fits on both and it looks great. This is a f2.8. You can, of course, invest in a lens that has a lower aperture rating on it. Maybe if you want to get an f1.4 or an f1.8, that's going to bring a lot more light in. It's going to be a faster lens. That's going to give you the availability to be in a very challenging low light situation and still do a good job. I'm not particularly concerned about that with this camera because this camera does so well already in low light. I'm okay with that. Okay, so I wouldn't get too caught up in the ratings. I think 2.8 is still really good. The 20mm gives me a wide enough angle where I'm able to get a lot in my frame. And so that's why I end up getting this particular separate lens. I'm going to show you my other lenses. They're all zoom lenses. This is one of only 2 prime lenses that I have. The other prime lens I'm recording on right now, it's an f1.4 Sony 85mm lens. I use it more for portraits than I do for video. I'm just trying it out for the first time today on video. If you're watching on YouTube, some of my clips, or if you're watching the live, some of my clips you're going to notice are very sharp, very clear. They're done on the portrait. Of course, I'm just doing it on my phone on the YouTube live. Okay, let's go through the Tamron lineup that I have. So we got the 20mm, which is basically my wide angle lens, f2.8. It only has the 20mm, so you can't zoom in or out. It's just a prime lens, so it's stationary, but it is very useful. The way you're going to be able to get more in your frame is you're going to just need to walk it back. If you need to get back zoom, you got to walk forward. So it's pretty simple. This is the Sony, it's made for Sony cameras. This is the Tamron. They do make it for other types of cameras. This is a Tamron 28 to 75. So it comes out pretty wide, not as wide as this one, but it does come out pretty wide. And so the 28mm does give me a lot of flexibility. In a lot of cases, I don't need to have this lens, but if I'm doing corporate work, corporate interviews, I'm probably going to go ahead and have this 20mm ready and fired and ready to go so I can have at least one wide angle shot. This particular lens here gives me the capability of doing a wide angle of 28mm, but I can zoom in, see, to the 75mm. I'm filming on an 85mm right now. So I can go into a 75 on this almost as much as this particular lens. Just to help explain what that means, especially if you're just now starting out and doing your professional work, when it's set at a 28mm, that means you're going to get quite a bit into your frame. It's going to be, almost basically like your wide angle shot. It's going to be pretty wide angle. I wouldn't necessarily call it a wide angle lens, but it's a wide angle shot. Okay, so 28mm is pretty good. 75mm is going to compress your field of view quite a bit. But the good thing about doing it at 75mm is that you're going to get a nice depth of field because whatever you're focused in on, whatever is in front of your subject or behind your subject is going to be out of focus. And then whatever is your subject is, of course, is going to be in focus. And so you're going to create what's called the bokeh effect. Some say bokeh, some say bokeh effect. But it's just that effect where your subject is super clear and everything else in the foreground or the background is blurry. And it looks really great because it focuses on your subject. So this allows you to do that with this 75mm extension to get closer to your subject, and coupled with the f2.8 rating. So that gives you flexibility there. I like that a lot. Let's move on to something that helps you get even closer. What this does, this will compress your field of view even more, even smaller. So let's say a wide angle is like this. And let's say this right here goes down to 75mm. So now it's like this. But then this one right here, this is an 2.8 to 5.6. Make sure it is 5.6. Yes, to 5.6. But it goes from 28 millimeters all the way to 200 millimeters. So you could take something that's quite a ways away, compress your field of view, and make it look like it's right close to the camera. It gives you that visual effect of being close to your subject. So this can help in things like wildlife, of course. I don't really do wildlife photography, but where it helps me is in corporate events or speaking engagements where I'm not particularly close to my subject. I might be quite a bit far away. Maybe I'm catching a nice little networking shot where two people are talking and having a conversation, and I'm able to be quite a bit far away, not right up in their conversation, trying to film them. I'm far enough away where I'm not noticeable. That helps. If I'm also filming something where I'm in the back of the room and I'm focusing on the subject that's in the front of the room, that's my speaker, then the 28 to 200 gives me a lot of flexibility for that situation. Now, if I'm quite a bit away from my subject, that's where this one helps. This is a 150 to 500 lens. It's a massive lens. So let me flip this around. So you can see how long this is. This lens is so big and heavy that it has its own tripod mount. Like, you don't want to take this on the end of this camera and have all the weight that's weighing down on the camera. So what they say is, go ahead and make this your center and have your tripod sitting on this part of the lens. It's a much larger lens than, let's say, this one. See, for a comparison speaking, this is a 28 to 200. You see that? 28 to 200, and the top one is a 150 to 500 millimeter. So it's a huge difference in the size, and the weight is very different too. This is way, way heavier. So that's why you have this special hookup for that. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've gone through the different lenses, the ones that I use. I don't really use this that often. This is one that I don't get used, but it's one of those things where when you need it, you want to have it. So for that reason, and I didn't necessarily want to go out and rent one if I needed one. So for that reason, I went ahead and bought this lens. I do not use this very often. The one I use the most, or ones I use the most, would be these two. The one that's the 28 to 75 millimeter, I use quite a bit, and I love that because you can get as good as 2.8, f2.8, all the way through the range. So all the way from 28 to 75, I'm getting the full extent of this lens and bringing in all that nice light and nice clear picture. I'm able to do that to the full extent, 28 to 75. On this one, the more I zoom in with this one, see, I'm going to lose some light there because it goes from f2.8 to f5.6. So 5.6 is a whole lot higher in terms of it's going to let less light in. So it's going to be more challenging. If I'm outside, it's not a big deal because outside I have so much light. I got more light than what I need. But inside, it can be challenging, especially if the room is not well lit. So that's where this has its limitations, but it has a lot of flexibility because f28, 28 millimeters all the way to 200 millimeters gives you a lot of flexibility. So that I do like that lens for that reason. And these are the ones I use the most. I do use this for corporate shots. If I've got a subject I'm going to be having two angles on, I want to get a nice wide field of view. Or sometimes when I'm doing B-roll, I may want to have that wide field of view here. But typically I just use it for interviews. I don't use it that much for anything else. I do like that lens. Okay, and then also, I think I mentioned this earlier, the f1.4 Sony 85 millimeter lens is the one I'm filming on right now. I use that lens a lot when it comes to portraits. So when I'm on set and I'm doing headshots or thumbnails, pictures, it's more so than video, on that particular camera, I'm going to use the portrait lens. That does a great job. Okay, moving right along. We're getting to the finish line here. Let me set this over here. Now let's talk about, I want to talk about audio. So here's my different audio ones. Now, I mentioned this earlier too. I use a shotgun mic on my Sony FX9, and at times I will use a shotgun mic on my Sony A7R V. So I do have this as a shotgun mic. If you're not familiar with what a shotgun mic does, a shotgun mic allows you to, almost like a shotgun, aim at your subject, and you're able to get the audio directly from your subject, and it drowns out any sound on the left, it drowns out sound on the right, and it drowns out the sound behind it. It's really only focused on what's directly in front of this particular microphone. So when you set this on top of your microphone, as you turn your camera, it's going to focus on whatever you're pointing to. So it's very useful, very natural from a filming perspective to use this particular mic, because it's going to always focus on your subject, which is great. Now, let's talk about wireless options though. And by the way, you can make this wireless too. All you need to do is buy a Bluetooth wireless adapter, and you can make this wireless. It doesn't have to be wired. Okay, so let's talk about these different ones here. The Hollyland, the first Hollyland microphone that I bought was this one here. I bought this a couple of years ago. Why did I buy it? Well, a number of reasons. One of the reasons I really like this particular unit is it has the built-in recorder. The sound is great, and I'm able to interview people. So I'm able to go on set and interview with people one-on-one with this. Whereas a lot of the other ones at the time, this is a few years ago when I bought this, a lot of the other ones only had one. So I would have had to buy two of these in order to really have any kind of decent interview. And a lot of times you only have space for one microphone input to go into your camera. So I needed to have something that had a dual setup. So this has a dual setup. It has an internal recorder. So let's say I've got it hooked into the camera, and let's say I don't have someone else filming. I'm filming myself and I have my interview subject here. I've gone through a whole show not realizing that the audio was not carrying properly. I didn't have my headphones on it. I was like, oh. So I don't want that to happen again. What this does, this allows you to record internally. So even if it didn't go in the camera, I still have this as a backup. This has actually saved me more than once, where I had a situation where I was recording, got through with the recording, there was no sound, it wasn't on. So I went into the internal recorder in here, I pulled the sound, brought it into my post-production, I brought it into my editing software, and I was able to save the day with audio from the recording here. So when I bought this next unit, which is the Hollyland Lark M2, I loved it because it was so small. You see, it's quite a bit smaller. Look at this here. It's quite a bit smaller than the other one. Look at the size difference in these two. This is almost like a large button. This right here is pretty good size. So just aesthetically, my clients ended up liking this. Oh, that's a strong magnet. That my clients ended up liking this particular microphone more just because it was smaller than this one. See the difference? They liked it. The downside of this one, though, is that it doesn't have an internal recorder. So if you miss it in the sound. Whereas this one here, you still get it in the actual microphone itself as an internal recorder. These you can get they're very cost effective right now. I want to say it's under, either right at $100 or under $100 for the two mic setup. The one that I have is a two mic setup. So I have two of these in here. So this is very convenient. This one was the next one that came out. It was the Hollyland M2S. So this one here, they heightened the sound quality a little bit. In fact, let me make sure I go and verify my numbers here. So the M2, oh, by the way, the Max Duo, what I like about the Max Duo, there's a lot of controls on the main unit that you can control that you cannot do that on these other ones. So like if I want to control the gain on one particular side over the other, I can do that with this one. I can't do that with this one. So if I want to have one mic, because sometimes you have people who their voice carries more or they talk louder, to be able to adjust those is sometimes crucial. So on paid work, I would highly suggest to use this if you want that kind of control. It has, well, all of them are going to have noise cancellation. The battery life, it lasts a really long time. But the two, I tell you, the sound quality is so good on this M2 that I cannot tell the difference between these two. I really can't. These are both very good sound on these. So let me move this over here. Very good sound on these. So I'm highly confident you'll enjoy this microphone. Just know it does not have an internal recorder. It's really good for quick setups too. It's really easy to put on your subject. It's magnetized, it's small, very nice. Now the M2S, the battery lasts longer on this one. It has a stronger signal, so you can be further away and still be able to hear it. The audio is good. It's better actually than the M2. It's not a lot better, but it's you can tell there's a little bit of a difference. I wasn't crazy about the fact of how you put it on your subject. See right here? Look at that. When you put that on your subject, I wasn't crazy about that because this one here, I could put pretty much anywhere. It was magnetized. This one here is more of a clip-on. Another thing that I didn't like about this too is that if you have anything that rubs against this front part, even if you have the noise cancellation on, it's loud. It doesn't sound good. So you got to make sure when you put it on your subject, you're putting it on your subject in a way that none of their clothing, none of their hair is going to hit this. Otherwise, you're going to hear it in the recording. That's one thing I didn't necessarily like about it. But it's still great quality sound. I have no regrets in getting this particular unit. And it's actually grown on me so much I'm used to actually doing the clip-on thing. It's actually worked out really well. Now, the newest, latest, and greatest is this one here. What's so great about this one? This is the Highland Lark Max 2. The benefit of this particular unit is that it has an internal recorder just like this first one I showed you. It has the internal recorder. These two do not. They don't have internal recorders. So if you miss the sound, you miss the sound. This one here, you still have a backup because it records internally. The new one also has that. But what the new one has that this one doesn't have is you can add 4 transmitters to this one. So you're not stuck to 2 like on this one. If I'm gonna get 4 with this one, I have to buy 2 of these. This one here, I just buy just this one. What makes that also valuable is oftentimes whatever camera you're using does not allow for more than 1 input. Now, the Sony FX9 does. It allows for up to 4 inputs, 2 of them external. Actually, yeah, right. 2? Yeah, 2 of them are external, it allows. Technically 3. This one here, I'm sorry, most cameras, like the Sony A7R V, they only have 1 input. So I only have the one 3.5 input I'm putting in there. So to be able to take 4 of these and actually have 4 people on 1 camera that only has 1 input is amazing. It has the internal recorder. Another thing this one has that none of these other cameras have is that you can connect wirelessly through headphones. So this particular unit comes with 2 transmitters and it comes with wireless headphones. That is amazing. Has great sound. Here's the other thing I like about it. I didn't know this until after I bought it. But with the wireless headphones that come with this one, you can use those wireless headphones for other things. You don't have to just use it for this. So I actually hooked up to one of my iPads once. I hooked up to my iPhone once, and then of course I can just change the mode, and then it goes right back into pairing with this particular microphone setup. So I love that. So you have a kind of a dual purpose for the Bluetooth wireless headphones. Plus, I can do 2 transmitters, and 2 more, so a total of 4. I think they need, and maybe Highland, if you're watching this, please give me the option to buy another case like this that helps me to charge my other 2 transmitters. They do have, at the bottom, they have a space for a USB-C, so you can plug in a USB-C into this microphone transmitter, and that's how you can charge it. Or you could interchange with this. I'd just rather have another case. So give me the option to buy a case. I would really appreciate that. Okay, those are the 4. I would recommend any one of the 4 depending on your needs. If you need to have up to 4 transmitters, it's a no-brainer. You get this one. You don't even look at the other ones, especially if you're using cameras that only have 1 input. Now, with the Sony FX9, because it allows for 2 external XLR inputs, I could actually use 2 of these. Like what I've done before is I would have one set in one XLR and another set in the other XLR, so I get a total of 4. Another advantage by separating it that way is I can in post-production, I can control the levels. So there is a slight advantage by separating them. I could do the same thing with this stuff if I wanted to, right? In fact, the way I have it set up now is because I can do up to 4 with this one and I can do 2 with either one of these, I can actually have 6 people on wireless microphones. I can even take it a step further and say, you know what? I can get the Sony UWP, I believe is the model number 27. It will fit in here, and that will be a dual input as well. So I could technically have, up to 8 if I bought that. I just don't have an interest in that. I've never had a situation where I even needed more than 4 anyway. But just in case you do, you have that flexibility. You can have 6, perhaps up to 8 people hooked up wirelessly to one camera without having a need for a soundboard. It just all goes into one. So that's an amazing option that I have with that. Now let's go with the gimbals. That's my last thing. We're going to take it home with the gimbals. Now, what is a gimbal? Well, the gimbal is going to allow you to have amazingly smooth footage. So you're going to be able to, walk around and go with this gimbal, and it's going to look really, really smooth. Now you can do that to a certain extent with just the camera itself. Like this particular one, depending on how you have it set up over your shoulder, you can get a pretty smooth feel. And then after you produce the content, you can put it through a program like Catalyst Browse, and it will smooth out the footage even more. So there is a certain amount that you can do alone without having the gimbal. But let's say you do need to have the gimbal. Ultimately you want really smooth footage. This is the way to go. There's no way to beat this. In fact, let me put this up here. You can't beat having a gimbal. It just really does a great job in smoothing out your footage. So let me show you how you can put this together. So whenever you're balancing a gimbal, there's basically 3 areas where you need to balance it. You're going to need to balance it there we go. You need to balance it this way. You're going to need to balance it this way. And then you're also going to need to balance it this way, like this. So if I want to take this particular camera here, I don't need this handheld thing, obviously, so I'm going to take this off. So that comes off. I mean, technically, I could take this off too, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it on. Now, if weight is an issue, or if you just don't want it to get in the way, you can leave it off. Okay. All right. So in order to balance this, one of the things you want to do is make sure that the crane, you can read it. If you have it the wrong way, you'll know it's the wrong way because it'll be upside down like this. So I'm going to turn it this way where it's right side up. Okay. And then I'm going to have this where it's like this. Once I put the camera in here, it needs to balance with it being off. So when I turn it on, it's able to balance it very easily. So now it's secured. It's in there. I use the Falcam 38s to keep it secure. Now that it's secure, let me just put this up here like this. The reason why this is on here is I would normally have the wireless microphone in there. Okay. So in order to balance this, I need to balance, remember, in 3 different places. One of the places I definitely need to balance it first is going to be moving it forward. Okay. So I loosen this here and I want to move the camera forward. And I need to keep moving it until I'm able to get it where it's balanced. Now in this case, it's because my lens is too light. So without me taking a whole lot of extra time on this broadcast, let me just go ahead and change out the lens. And one of the things you can do is make it stationary by flipping this button here. And that now it's stable, okay? I can do the same thing here. Flip this. Now it's stable there too. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and change the lens on here. Flip this little switch right here. And then loosen this up while I'm holding the lens, take it off. Now I'm gonna take this right here. Okay, now I just tighten that up. Now it's fully tight in there, okay? Now let's see if this is enough to balance it out. I don't know, we'll see. It's still not enough. So what I would have to do in this case, which I don't want to take the time on this broadcast, but what I would do is I would adjust it from the bottom here to move it up further so that it does fit properly. But I will show you how to balance the other part. For instance, I'll show you how to balance this part here. Okay, so now it's loose. You see it's kind of turning to the left here. So what I need to do is I just need to balance it out by using this. So I'm going to loosen this like that. And then when I loosen this, I'm going to be moving this back and forth so that it doesn't go left as much. So now I'm going to make it go this way. Okay, I think I got it in a good spot right here. Okay, see that? Now this is, I let it go, it's not tilting anymore. So that part's balanced. So the tilt is balanced. Now I need to make sure this part's also balanced. So the way you make sure this is balanced is if you tip it sideways, you want to see if it goes to any one side. Okay, now see that it goes this way. That lets me know that it's tipped too far this way. So I need to make sure that I tip the scales a little bit and move this in. Or move it out, rather. Let me try that. It does it, but not as much. So just a little bit more. Now it's too much the other way. See, it's a little bit of an art to it, and it's just a matter of just test. Oh, that's pretty good. That's good right there. Okay, that's pretty balanced. Okay, so now I have this part balanced. Remember, I'm balancing it this way, and then once I have it balanced there, now I'm basically the last piece of the puzzle is just balancing it the way I showed you earlier. So, but you get the point. Once you have it balanced, then now when you turn on the unit, you're going to be able to take this particular camera and be able to maneuver it different ways, and it's going to always stay balanced. It's going to give you nice, smooth footage. Okay, let me know if you want to do a follow-up session on how to balance the gimbal, how to use it. I'm more than willing to do that. I apologize I didn't have it fully ready today, but I can have it ready next time where it will be balanced forward. I was using a different camera on it last time, and so that's why it wasn't ready for what I had. So hopefully you were able to get some value out of what we did today. I certainly enjoyed showing you this stuff. Feel free to let me know in the comments any questions that you have. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about next when it comes to gear. What is it? Is it lighting? Is it more about the sound? Is it more about the cameras? Is it setting up the camera? What are some of the things that you want to learn? Would you like me to compare more cameras against each other? Love to hear it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.